So lately, I've been playing a lot of The World Ends With You. And I know what you're saying to yourself. You're saying, but Wood, you say you play all of these games. You say you get addicted to all of these games. Where's the proof? Any kind of proof that you've actually spent the entire day playing The World's End With You like you've actually been playing. But if you want proof, my hand's stuck and I don't know what to do about it. Today we're playing The World Ends With You. That's the stupidest, loudest intro I've done in a while. So do me a favor before we start this video, find your Switch, pluck out the two Joy-Cons and just go ahead, throw one away. You don't need it for this video, we only need one to play The World Ends With You, and that's really where, that's where the fun starts. And if you think I'm joking, please play this game in dock mode for a few hours if you want a fast-track one-way ticket to getting the week off of work when you come in with a doctor's note saying you came down with a severe case of carpal tunnel. And playing it in handheld mode ain't much better on the digits either. But in all seriousness, before I get too far into completely destroying the controls in this game, because they're so infuriating, I do want to say that this is my first time playing through The World Ends With You. I had always heard such amazing things about this game, and it was always one that I intended to play eventually. And as such, ever since I saw it was making its Switch debut, I was really excited to go out and pick it up. And going into the game with my expectations set slightly above average, it kind of blew past any expectation I had about the game and instantly solidified itself as one of my favorite RPGs. And I'm not scrolling around here, even with what I consider to be god-awful controls. And I was trying really hard not to swear on my family-friendly channel. Even with what I consider to be terrible controls in the Switch port, I am still enjoying the ever-loving heck out of The World Ends With You. And so before we get to the part of the video where I vlog myself going down to the doctor and getting medication for my arthritis, The World Ends With You is by far the worst case of Nintendo Switch tax so far. And what do I mean by Nintendo Switch tax? I know I'm not the only one that's noticed that a lot of these Switch games are just slightly more expensive than anywhere else. But in my opinion, The World Ends With Arthritis is by far the worst case of Switch tax so far because it's a port of a really old but really fantastic DS game. But this isn't a port of that DS game. No. This is a port of the mobile port of that DS game. Let me break that down for you one time real quick. That $18 DS game was ported to mobile quite a while ago and currently sells for $17.99. And now that mobile port has been re-ported onto your Nintendo Switch. Now don't get me wrong, that does actually make sense because the DS had two screens, so when they took it to mobile, they had to rework the game to make it work on one screen. And for you mathematicians playing along at home, yes, the Switch also has one screen, so it does make absolutely perfect sense taking that mobile version and just bada bing bada boom, here you go, you have it on Switch. So of course, $18, $50. And I do get that Switch games cost quite a bit to manufacture, but we do see a lot of these indie games like Dead Cells, an amazing game by the way. If you haven't seen my video on that, there'll be a link down below, coming out at the price tag of $30. Which is not only a really great price for going out and buying these amazing indie gems on the Switch physical, but it does tell me that if indie developers can afford to put them out at $30, Square Enix, it probably wouldn't break the bank to do the same or at least $40. What I see when I see $50 on this game is Square Enix going, ooh, we're making some juicy cash off the Switch right now. Go ahead and make that bad boy $50. Love ya. So what does this remastered final remix bring to the table that was worth $30 extra than the mobile game? So it does actually include the new day scenario, which adds about 3 to 5 hours to the gameplay. On top of that, the other things this Switch version has going for it is incredible HD visuals, and I will give it that, as well as some new pins. And we will start talking about the game itself at some point, but the pins give you extra abilities and attacks to use within the game, so that is actually pretty cool, especially for the diehard fans that have played this game a billion times before and want something new and fresh to their gameplay. And the final thing that this final mix version has that you just can't get anywhere else is motion controls. Oh. It's like, why am I being so gross today? So all of those Switch bells and whistles, are they worth the extra $30 from the mobile version, or are they worth an extra $20 than a lot of these indie games that are coming out around $30? All goofs aside, as I said, it is an absolutely brilliant game. And if you haven't played it yet, spending $50 on this game is not a waste of money at all. You will enjoy it, and it's a very lengthy game, an average of about 25 hours long, so you will get your money's worth out of this game as long as your medical bills are reasonable. So what does make the controls in this game just oh so bad? So you have two ways to play The World Ends with Atlantis. The first way is by getting your greasy Cheeto finger and smudging it all over the screen, getting those oils in nice and good, so by the time you're done it looks like a Jackson Pollock painting and you have to wipe it on your shirt, and then you realize it's a white shirt and then you have to wash that shirt. Or just not eat Cheetos before you play, I guess. That's one option, but I still always get oil all over my screen. I hate anything that involves using my finger, and of course you can't use a style with this like you can the DS for some reason. The other way, and trust me, it's not a preferred way, is by using one of these. And I don't know what went wrong when it came to developing these controls, because the Joy-Cons are actually pretty precise, and a lot of games that I've played that have involved pointing it towards the screen, I have never had an issue. I've always actually been amazed at how well these bad boys handle pointing around with no kind of sensor bar or anything like the Wii had. So I don't think that it's the hardware in this bad boy. I think it's bad optimization when it came to programming the game. Because no matter how long you play, it never gets any easier. Wherever you want to point, you ain't gonna point there. You'll end up pointing kind of close to there, and then if you want to move slightly to the right, you end up moving the cursor off the freaking screen, which completely gets it all out of sync with itself, and you need to point it back right in the middle of the screen and hit the left button to resync it, and then try again, all that in the middle of a battle where you're losing health and about to die and get the game over screen. And that's just the first of it. The combat primarily relies on you tapping pinpoint accuracy on enemies and performing swipe moves, both of which end up becoming mission frigging impossible because it's so hard to actually accurately point at any one object, especially when it's a tiny little frog or bat or something. Good luck. So you're better off going for the swipe moves. But even then, while you swipe, you have to be holding down a button, and half the time it won't even register, and when it does register you're holding down that button, the swipe has to be so precise at just the right speed, and when the Joy-Con's motion controls just decides for you what speed it wants to go at, you find yourself swiping like a maniac just trying to do one simple attack. And you might think that I'm over-exaggerating, and I actually am for video's sake. If I talked like this the entire video, who would even watch me? I know you would, but you're one of the good ones. I'm trying to get... There's a bunch of 9-year-olds that I have to entertain, so I gotta do the voice cracks and the loud wobbly bobblies, whatever that is. Anyway, but you can watch any other review on YouTube of this game, and the first thing anyone will say is, it's a good game, but the controls, oh... I don't know what went wrong with the motion controls in this game, and I mentioned the oily screen when you try and use your finger, but it's not just that sucked about doing it in tablet mode, because you gotta hold this beast. It's not a mobile phone, it's not as small, there's no pleasurable way of holding this thing, and then you gotta sit there stroking it, even trying to use your finger and trying to be more accurate with it without the pointing Joy-Con, it still misses half the stuff that I do, and I end up tapping it multiple times furiously or swiping it like a madman just trying to get it to register my finger. Maybe it's because I'm that into the game that my finger is drenched in sweat and it won't pick up my movements, but all I'll say is don't use my Switch after I've been playing The World Ends with You because you might catch something. But just like I said at the start of this video, despite all of its control flaws, I am still having a fantastic time with this game. So let's talk about just what makes this game such a tasty biscuit. To start with, the soundtrack smacks you straight in the face as soon as you load up the title screen. And it does not go downhill from there. Amazing track after amazing track. It's honestly the sole reason I prefer playing it docked. Greasy Cheeto fingers aside, I want this music blasting through my soundbar, making my living room look like one of those commercials from the 80s where the sheer awesomeness of what these kids are hearing and seeing is blowing their hair back in imaginary wind. And that sweet music blends right in with the radical visual style that is the rest of the game. I fell in love with the art style and the visuals and the characters as soon as they exploded onto my screen. The entire game is inspired by music and it's captivating to play. The game's story is primarily depicted by still images of the characters talking in text form with speech bubbles on the screen. And even though I don't usually love this style of storytelling, the entire game plays out like a badass anime. The game starts with you playing as a character called Neku who wakes up with amnesia and finds himself smack bang in the middle of a game of life and death, where every day he finds himself being given Die Hard 3 style challenges to race around the city of Shibuya completing tasks, and if he fails he gets erased from existence, literally erased. And if that isn't creepy enough, he's given a time limit to complete these tasks and the time gets burnt into his hand. And every time he gets slapped with that time limit, you can see the aching look on his face as his hand is searing with pain. Maybe the developer made the controls like this on purpose so you could relate with his suffering. You go on to find out you're actually stuck in this game with other players and you all have to complete these goals or else you all face being terminated. But despite the whole, life and death thing, here's where the game starts to get really cool. You are given pins to start the game, like pins that cool kids attach to their clothes. I used to actually do that a lot. You get pins and each of them will give you different abilities. Every player in the game starts with the same pin and it allows you to not only distinguish other players in the game from Reapers, and Reapers are a whole nother kind of creepy, but it also lets you read minds of civilians throughout the game. It can even let you interject thoughts into their head to make them complete certain goals and tasks for you. But then all the other pins you find along the way will give you abilities to use in battles. Like a fire pin, when you drag the cursor across the string or your greasy Cheeto finger, you'll do a line of fire. You can get a lightning pin, so when you tap an enemy, you strike them with lightning, and then if you tap another enemy right after, you'll chain combo the lightning. And then obviously the more pins you start finding and the more pin spaces you start unlocking, and you fill your thing full of pins, and by the time you've completely covered your grade 12 backpack in pins, you'll find yourself casting more spells than you can handle, like Invoker from Dota 2. Never got the hang of that character. And I was surprised at the sheer depth of the gameplay mechanics in The World Ends With You. There's just so many levels to it and so many different things to think about and do, and combined with the fact that every day is a new challenge, so you're kind of playing each day in this story, it sort of gives me Persona vibes. Even though the games really aren't comparable at all, I think it's just the feel of the game and how great it is that reminds me of playing another great JRPG. It's a very loose connection, but the dots are there. But there is so much to think about, even down to the clothes you wear. All the clothes you buy in the game will obviously have different stats and different abilities, but all the clothes also have brands. And depending on what area of Shibuya you're in, those brands will have different rankings. If you're wearing a really popular brand in that area, your attacks will actually do more damage. But if you're wearing a brand that no one likes, your attacks will actually be hard. So you have to think about that. You have to think about what food you choose to consume every day, because you can only consume so much food, and all the food items in the game will give you different rewards as well. Just like in real life, you can eat 17 meals a day. And it's just so unique. I've never played anything quite like this before. I just want to learn more about every single character. They're all interesting. They're so unique. They're full of so much personality. The writing and storytelling is on point. I want to read every single little bit of text that's on my screen. I want to hear the thoughts of every single NPC I walk past. I just want to be a part of the world. I want to actually jump into the screen and be a part of the game. If you have not played The World Ends With You, it is worth $50 for the experience of the game because it is so amazing. Just bear in mind, the controls are gonna be a little frustrating and they're gonna take some getting used to. If you've played this game before, then the price is really up to you as to whether you just really want to play it again. And I wouldn't blame you if you did want to, because shattering my expectations, I do actually love this game. And if you love this video or you learned a little something, make sure you hair flip all over that subscribe button, click or tap on that video right there and leave a comment saying, "I'm so sorry for your loss, sad face," and then watch everyone get really confused with what you meant by that. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm gonna dance party out of here.